Wish We Could Turn Back Time by Girlinpink44, Chapter 18. Once upon a time, meaning it was around 1972, Howard Stark bought a stretch of land in upstate New York. The wide open fields soon housed a warehouse. In the late 1980s, Obadiah Stane would store relics from the New York offices as he moved the headquarters to Malibu, California. In years it had once happened, but now no longer existed. The land sat empty. Eventually, Tony would tear down the old warehouse and build a new, large compound to house the Avengers, their training and anything they could need. And then, one day, he'd die in the rubble that had once been that compound. Tony would have thought that the utter lack of landmarks from years that never would be would throw him off and make him unable to figure out what exactly had been where. But he remembered. Walking around the field, the warehouse, one day would be where the hangar would sat, already having been emptied out and distributed to other places. He wanted to build the compound sooner rather than later, but he could tell you where the gym sat, where he had spent hours upon hours working with Rhodey and supporting him throughout physical therapy, where the lab sat, where Peter and he had worked on projects, played and bonded, the press room outside of which Peter had made a very responsible decision, where the time machine had stood. About 100 yards away was where he had hugged Peter, the teenage version, for the last time. But at the moment, he was where he had died. The place he had stood, snapped, and then where he laid to breathe his last, before waking up here. If you asked most people who were trying to figure out where Tony had sent Obadiah Stane for a showdown, they'd assume he was up to some elaborate pre-battle planning session. What they wouldn't expect is for Tony to be laying on the ground, staring at the sky, and picturing another battle that took place here. Or that he would be remembering his own death.
Tones?
He turned his head to see Rhodey standing a few feet away.
I died here. I know.
His friend sat down beside him. Overhead, the sound of a jet caught Tony's attention, and he saw the jet that belonged to the X-Men landing not too far away from the warehouse. Tony wondered what they were doing here. Considering he was only a couple of hours away from Xavier's school, he had wanted to have a heads up of a potential battle. Not that Tony planned on it getting so far, but he hadn't planned on Germany going as far as it did.
I was thinking of turning this into our base of operations for Thanos-related things. A place where we can meet with potential allies, train together, and gather resources and information. This place was meant to stand for so much. It did.
And it can again. There was a faint whir of wheels as Xavier's chair made its way towards them.
Welcome to what was, well, in a timeline that no longer exists, the Avengers compound.
Tony sat up, turning towards the sound to find Hank McCoy and Logan with Xavier.
You guys didn't have to come.
We weren't going to leave you to fight this alone, especially since you picked a place so close to our base. Tony waved to the area around him.
I died here. The final battle, the one we won but lost far too much, was here.
That earned some quiet for a moment as everyone looked around. Tony checked his watch and got up, shaking himself out of his thoughts. Maybe putting this battle in a place with so many ghosts to haunt him had been a mistake. Too late now.
I've got a suit in the warehouse. I have a feeling he'll come loaded. And while I want this to end as peacefully as possible, I doubt I'll get that chance.
They made their way to the warehouse. Inside sat the suit, and Tony ran one last check of it. This would be the suit's first real test in this timeline. It was the first big chance people had of seeing it. While they were in an out-of-the-way area, he knew that the fight would gain notice on the radar soon enough.
You made that?
Hank walked over to the suit, examining it.
That's amazing. Wait till I invent technology that will let me catch up to where I was before. That's gonna blow your mind.
Tony smiled, patting the armor affectionately.
You have no idea how frustrating it is to be shoved 15 years into the past when technologically you were already about a decade ahead of the rest of the world. I don't,
Hank chuckled. Rhodey's phone rang and he picked it up.
Colonel Rhodes.
He talked for a minute, concern growing on his face.
Tones, an unidentified aircraft is heading this way.
Tony looked at the armor, realizing that it was time.
I've got this. Tell the council to stand by for their first real look at Iron Man.
Stepping into the suit felt like coming home in an odd sort of way. No matter how hard Tony had tried, he had missed the suits. He had even managed retirement for the better part of 5 years, but the itch was there, and now he had a chance to scratch it. As he stepped into the suit, the HUD came alive and Jay ran his final checks.
All systems are functioning optimally, sir. Good job, Jay. Rhodey, are you on the radio? We are. Passing out headsets to everyone and we'll be good to go. The signal's about 2 minutes out. Dr. Xavier and I will hang back and handle the coordinating the assault. Hank and I will be your seconds, Logan smiled,
the grin slightly feral as his claws emerged from beneath his knuckles, the silver gleaming against the sunlight that peeked through the windows of the warehouse. Tony nodded.
We'll probably have some company in the form of law enforcement and press before this is all over. This will bring you into the spotlight. It's time, Dr. Stark. Charles spoke up. It's Tony, Professor. Then it's Charles. But it's time we stepped out of the shadows. Yes, you didn't think of us when you assembled a team to deal with Thanos, but we could have also stepped up and offered our services. Far too long we've stuck with dealing with our own affairs. But now, it's time we step up and protect our planet alongside the others. Hear, hear! Hank pumped a fist up.
Tony could hear the sound of thrusters now, and walked out of the barn only to see a suit that was eerily similar to the Ironmonger suit he had faced all those years ago. Yet, technically a few weeks from now, time travel still hurt his brain, even after a month. The suit landed and the helmet flipped up to reveal Obadiah Stane.
You almost had me. Luckily, I still have friends who tip me off. It's over, Stane. There isn't anywhere you can hide. That's where you're wrong, my boy. There are plenty of countries without extradition treaties in the US. Once I kick your ass and kill your boys, I can fly this suit to one of them and live comfortably off the funds I've stored in an offshore account.
Tony paused.
Jay, see if you can track those down. That's probably his blood money. I've got a list of charities a mile long that if we might choose to use for. Of course, sir.
Tony turned his attention back to Stane. He flipped his own helmet up.
Nice rip-off. You sloppily left the plans in Afghanistan. I liberated them from the idiots there and had some of our engineers fix it up. How did you solve the energy problem?
Obadiah grinned. I blackmailed the oldest boy with the help of the youngest.
It's amazing what they'll do to defend each other. Both are quite the little engineers.
Tony felt his blood boil at the idea of his sons being forced to work for Obadiah.
Jay, focus on the reactor in the suit. Chances are there's a failsafe to turn it off or something. Harley's a creative little sneak when he wants to be. Of course, sir.
Where are they? Tony glared at the man. Last chance. Give me back my boys, and I'll talk to the feds about taking the treason charges off the table. Or you can deposit $500 million into an account to add to my retirement fund, since you so rudely seized my retirement package. Once I'm in a country without an extradition treaty, I'll send you the coordinates of the boys.
You're going nowhere.
You're not going anywhere. Tony let the helmet close around him.
Stain's closed too. I'd like to see you stop me. My suit is bigger and better than yours.
Oh, I highly doubt that.
Stain took to the air, and Tony followed him. The pair played an odd game of chicken and tag and mixed together for a bit. Sure enough, Tony noticed a couple of press helicopters starting to come their way. He just hoped they wouldn't be stupid enough to come too close and get themselves in a jam. But then again, they were members of the press, and they weren't known for making the smartest decisions in the face of getting their story, so he was aware that it would be his mess soon enough. Obadiah Stane opened a hatch in the back and a machine gun came out of the back. If it had been anyone else trying to dodge, they may have struggled, but flying in these suits was second nature to Tony by this point, so he dodged them with ease.
Platypus, can we reverse track him on the radar? See where he came from. Anyone except for me would have to have a place to store this. And he once again wasn't conservative with his design. I can look on my end. Get some people working on it too. Jay, I know I'm working you a bit thin. Jay, I know I'm stretching you a bit thin. Of course not, sir. It has been quite a while since I've had the chance to stretch my processing power like this. I enjoy the challenge. Tony grinned. I'm glad to hear it, because I need you to help Rhodey if he needs it. Of course, sir. I can run facial recognition as they gave me a narrowed down zone to look in, and see if I can trace your wayward employees. Thanks, Jay.
Tony swerved to the right, dodging another round of bullets. He turned his attention back to the fight.
You know, you are severely outgunned, Obi. Good thing I brought backup. Tony! Rhodey's voice cut through on the comms. You've got 2 more incoming!
2 dots appeared on his HUD and he looked to see 2 drones closing in on him.
Luckily for Tony, he also has backup. Logan's voice cut in on the comms.
Tony saw him quickly scale a tree, grab a drone, and land it on the ground.
Did I forget to mention I made some new friends? 'Cause I did.
Tony grinned. Turning, he fired a repulsor shot at Stain's suit, sending him flying backwards.
Jay, how are we looking? Power levels are holding at optimum levels. We have sustained minor damage to the suit as a result of bullets. Minor is alright.
Tony fired off a shot before taking off, Stain chasing after him.
Sir, you are being targeted by Stain's guidance system.
Jay's voice rang out.
Evasive maneuvers recommended.
Tony levelled out, arguably making it easier for Stain to log on to him.
Hold our position for a minute.
He paused, counting for a few seconds.
Flares, Jay!
The flaps released and the flares dispersed as a small missile came out of Stain's suit, causing an explosion. Tony felt the heat of it and got a slight pushback from it.
Smart move, Tony.
Stain taunted.
Honey bear, any luck? Working on it. Well, I'm going to end this. Jay, put the power in the thrusters if you wouldn't mind. We're going up. Rerouting power to the thrusters, sir.
Tony launched upwards, the R-meter appearing on his HUD. It had been ages since he'd taken a joyride in a suit, but he loved flying high, getting a view that no one else saw. He launched himself into the air.
Jay, the record is just over 22,000 feet if memory serves. Make sure we document this. Of course, sir.
10,000. 15,000. 20,000. Tony glanced over his shoulder and saw Stain and his suit close behind. Already there were signs of icing on it. He switched to broadcasting.
Hey, Stain. Quick question. What? What did you do to solve the icing problem? Icing problem?
Tony sailed past the record and paused. Stain's suit was glitching. He could see the power flickering on and off before he began to fall.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Tony let him fall for a second before sailing after him. In theory, he should regain power in a couple of 100 feet above the ground. He switched back to his comms.
Jay, let's start coming up with a plan. He's not dying on this fall.
Stain free fell, and Tony followed behind.
He had been running too low on power to properly appreciate Stain falling the last time he had done this. But this time, he was in charge of the situation. It was oddly satisfying to watch him be helpless for a minute, to feel an ounce of what Tony had felt in that cave. Perhaps it was wrong of Tony. Perhaps it was vindictive. In a way, it felt like vengeance. They were just under 5,000 feet.
Sir, Stain's suit is showing signs of waking up. He should fall out of that in time.
They continued falling, and sure enough, Stain seemed to get control. But as he started to move, he froze again and seemed to float about a dozen feet in the air.
Jay, are you seeing this? Guys, are you seeing this?
That may be the friend I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. Charles's voice rang over the speaker. A figure appeared, a metal helmet on his head.
I believe this is yours, Mr. Stark.
Tony nodded.
Thanks for catching him. I was working on a containment plan, but that works better than any of my ideas. Would you mind holding him there for a minute while I crack this suit like an egg?
The man nodded.
When we're done, Charles mentioned you have a proposal I'd want to hear. I'm a Magneto. Tony.
He nodded again.
Give me just a second.
Switching to his comm with Jay.
Jay, can you hack into his suit systems and begin the ejection sequence? Give me a moment, sir.
I've got my AI working on getting the suit open. Once we get him out, Colonel Rhodes over there will take him into custody until law enforcement comes on the scene. On the ground, Rhodey, Charles, Hank and Logan were coming over.
Eric, Charles nodded. Charles, thank you for coming.
Magneto nodded.
Your message got my attention.
Tony wondered what the history was between those two, because he could tell something happened. They kind of reminded him of him and Cap after Germany. Well, after the snap.
Sir, I am into the system.
There was a hiss and the suit opened, revealing Obadiah, who looked shocked. Tony picked him up and carried him over to where Rhodey waited. Lowering him, Logan helped get him under control and held him as his hands were cuffed behind his back. Off to the distance, sirens could be heard. Tony turned and could see the lights as they made their way. Unless he wanted to reveal that he was Iron Man today, he needed to make himself scarce.
Jay, trace what you can of his flight path. I want to find the boys.
Switching over, he turned to Rhodey.
Honey Bear, I'm going to join the team looking for the boys. You've got this. Get them back, Tones.
With a nod, Tony flew off, following the route that Jarvis had highlighted. He had his boys to find. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. Oh, I loved that. That was amazing. All the smarts, all the allies coming in, Magneto being a Deus Ex Machina. Awesome. But yeah, up on to the next chapter. He's after the boys. And oh boy, we're in for a cute reunion if memory serves. But I don't know exactly how cute because I haven't read this for a while. So anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to get notified for whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day night, whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.